Now that you have your kiln connected, what we're going to do next is plug it in. You'll hear it beep at you, it'll say wait, and then it'll pop into idle. Anytime that your kiln is not firing, it should be alternating between idle and the ambient temperature that the thermocouple is reading. So, this just means that your kiln is ready to be programmed to do a firing. When you have the standard V6CF, as we see here, there are a lot of buttons on here that you can get into. The basics, and honestly the ones that I use the most, are just the cone fire on the side. It does the most for the ease of use. When we are operating kiln, we want to use the cone fire on the right side of the board. We want to use slow bisque or fast bisque if we are doing a bisque firing, or slow glaze and fast glaze if we are doing a glaze firing. So, for the purpose of this demonstration, I will use a slow bisque. So this will say SBC. I will enter. It'll ask me what cone I want. So this cone is already pre-programmed to 06. So let's just say I want to go to a little bit higher. I'm going to go to 04. Hit enter. It's going to ask me for a hold. A hold is asking for hours and minutes on how long I want to hold the kiln. I will just hit enter because I don't want any hold, so there's 0 hold. And now it goes back to idle and the temperature. It is ready to go, and I can just hit start. So now the kiln is firing. You will hear the relay clicking on and off when it is firing to reach a new temperature, just like that. And that will be how your kiln regulates its temperature. Now, if I want to stop this firing in the middle of it, I can easily just come up here and go stop. And it'll take me back to idle. If your kiln is not flashing to idle or something else, it is in the process of firing. So, you can also review your program. If you say, I hit start now, it will start whatever program was last put in there. So I can come down here to review program, and it will tell me what is going on in the program. And we can just go over this real quick, and we can slow this down with the magic of computers. So, review program, slow bisque, preheat, no preheat, cone, 04, degrees Fahrenheit, 1945. And that's going to tell me how hot it's going to get. There's no hold on there. There's no delay. It's going to start immediately. The alarm is at 99999. What that just means is that it's, oh boy, I can't keep up. The alarm being set at 999 effectively shuts it off. You can set an alarm on the kiln to let you know when it reaches a certain temperature. Let's hit review program again. We'll have to splice this in. Preheat, no preheat, cone, 04, degrees Fahrenheit, that's where it's going to. There's 0 there, hold, no. The delay, we're going to start immediately. The alarm is effectively off. Error is on. If there's an error, it'll do it. And it also tells me what firing it is, and this will be the first firing for this kiln, so it's firing 1. The board will keep track of how many times it has completed a firing cycle, so you'll be able to track how many firings you have done that way. Now we're ready to do a simple paper test. We're doing this to determine if any of our elements are out. What we'll do is we'll get some paper and we're going to rip it to little strips. I like to use scrap paper for this. It's just an extra piece of paper I had lying around. And depending on the model of kiln that you have, will determine how many paper strips you want to rip. For a 184, there should be 4 elements, 1 for each row of brick. And what I will do is now put this paper touching the elements directly, like so. Keep going. Go ahead. I like to put them all on every other row. So I have 1 piece of paper on each element. You can also count this by the number of crossover bricks, is how many elements you have in your kiln. Alright, in order to change a thermocouple, as always, make sure you have disconnected your kiln. What we will do first is remove these 2 screws so that we can get the thermocouple block out of the kiln. Once you have removed the 2 screws from the thermocouple block, we're just going to gently pull it straight back. Be very careful if you have bent your thermocouple with a wayward shelf. Then what we will do is we will remove these 2 screws in the center with just a regular Phillips head screwdriver. Now, you don't have to completely remove them. You can leave them in there, but just enough so that you can pull the old thermocouple out. So you end up with something that looks like this. Then what you will do, you will get yourself your new thermocouple that looks nice and shiny. You'll notice one has red on one side, one does not. You will take the red side and put it to the negative side. You will take the red side and put it to the negative side. It should be labeled as red. So, red, negative. I know that that's this side. I will take my thermocouple on the red side, slide it in. Once I have that in there, I will now snugly and securely put the thermocouple back on there, being careful not to strip the screw by tightening it too much, which is why I recommend doing this by hand. Then, once it's ready, slide it back in. Replace the screws.